Chapter 33. The Death Eaters. Voldemort looked his own body his away from Harry and began examining hardware like large pale spider. His long white finger gasped his own chest, his arms, his face, the red eyes whose pupils were slit like cats, gleamed still more brightly through the darkness. He held up his hand and flexed his fingers, his expression rapt and exultant. He took not the slightest notice of Wormtail, who lay twitching and bleeding on the ground, nor of the great snake which had slithered back into sight and was circling Harry again, hissing. Voldemort slipped one of those unnatural long-fingered hands into their pocket and drew out a wand. He kissed it gently too, and then he raised it and pointed it at Wormtail, who had lifted off the ground and thrown again the headstone where Harry was tied. He fell to the foot of it and lay there, crumpled up and crying. Voldemort turned his scarlet eyes upon Harry, laughing a high, cold, mirthless laugh. Wormtail's robes were shining with blood now. He had wrapped the stump of his arm in them. My lord, he talked, my lord, you promise, you did promise. Hold out your arm, said Wormtail lazily. Oh, master, thank you, master. He extended the bleeding stump, but Voldemort laughed again. The other arm, Wormtail. Master, please, please. Voldemort bent down and pulled out Wormtail's left hand. He forced and slipped the Wormtail's robe up past his elbow. And Harry saw something upon the skin there, something like a vivid red tattoo. A skull with a snake protruding from his mouth. The image that had appeared in the sky at that Quidditch World Cup, dark mark. Voldemort examined it carefully, ignoring Wormtail uncontrollably weeping. He's back, he said softly. They will have noticed it. Now we shall see, now we shall know. He pressed his long white forefinger to the brand on Wormtail's arm. The scar on Harry's forehead scared with sharp pain again, and Wormtail let out a fresh howl. Voldemort removed his finger from Wormtail's mark, and Harry saw that it had turned jet black. A look of cruel satisfaction on his face, Voldemort straightened up, threw back his head, and stared around at the dark graveyard. How many will be brave enough to return when they feel it? He whispered, his gleaming red eyes fixed upon the stars. And how many will be foolish enough to stay away? He began to pace up and down before Harry and Wormtail eyes sweeping the graveyard all the while. After a minute or so, he looked down at Harry again, a cruel smile twisting his snake-like face. You stand, Harry Potter, upon the remains of my late father. He is softy, a muggle and a fool. Very like your dear mother, but they both had their uses. Did they not? Your mother died to defend you as a child, and I killed my father, and see how useful he has proved himself in death. Voldemort laughed again. Up and down he paced, looking all around him as he walked, and the snake continued to circle in the grass. You see that house upon the hillside, Potter? My father lived there. My mother, a witch who lived here in the village, fell in love with him, but he abandoned her when she told him what she was. Gleamed like magic, my father. He left her and returned to his Muggle parents before I was even born, Potter, and she died giving birth to me, leaving me to be raised in Muggle orphanage. But I vowed to find him. I vowed to find him. I revenged myself on him. That fool who gave me his name, founded me. Till he pays his red eye, that he said quietly, I am growing quite sentimental, but look, Harry, my true family returns. The air was suddenly full of swishing of cloaks between graves. Behind the yew trees, in the shadowy space, wizards were apparating. All of them were hooded and masked, and one by one they moved forward slowly, cautiously, as though they could hardly believe their eyes. Voldemort stood in silence, waiting for them. Then one of the Death Eaters fell to his knees, crawled toward Voldemort, and kissed the hem of his black robe. Master, master, he murmured. The Death Eaters behind him did the same, each of them approaching Voldemort on his knees and kissing his robes. Before backing away and standing up, forming a silent circle which enclosed Tom Riddle's grave, Harry, Voldemort, and the sobbing and twitching heap that was Wormtail. Yet they left gaps in circle as though waiting for more people. Voldemort, however, did not seem to expect more. He looked around at the hooded face and though there was no vivid or rustling seam to run around the circle as though had shivered. Welcome, Death Eater, said Voldemort quietly. 13 years, 14 years since last we met. Yet you answer my call as though it were yesterday. You are still united under the dark mark, then, or are we? He put back his terrible face and sniffed, his slit-like nostrils widening. I smell guilt, he said. There is stench of guilt upon the air. A second shiver ran around the circle as though each member of it longed but did not dare to step back from him. I see you are unhealthy and your powers intact. Such prompt appearance, and I ask myself, why did this band of wizards never come to the aid of their masters, to whom they swore eternal loyalty? No one spoke, no one moved except Montel, who was upon the ground, still sobbing over his bleeding arm. I answer myself, whispered Voldemort. They must have believed me broken. They thought I was gone. They slipped back among the enemies and they played innocence and ignorance and bewitchment. And then I may ask myself, but how could they have believed I would not rise again? They who knew the step I took long ago to guard myself against mortal death. They who had seen proof of the immensity of my power in the times when I was mightier than any wizard living. And I answer myself, perhaps they believe a still greater power will exist, and that could vanish even Lord Voldemort. Perhaps they now pay allegiance to another. Perhaps they are champions of commoners, of mudblood and muggles. Albus Dumbledore, at the mention of Dumbledore's name, the member of the circle stared, and some muttered and shook their heads. Voldemort ignored them. It is a disappointment to me. I confess myself disappointed. One of them suddenly flung himself forward, breaking the circle, trembling from head to foot. He collapsed. The Voldemort's feet. Master, he shrieked, Master, forgive me. Forgive us all. Voldemort began to laugh. He raised his wand. Crucio, the Death Eater on the ground, writhed and shrieked. Harry was sure the sound must carry to the house. Let the police come, he thought desperately. Anyone, anything. Voldemort raising his wand. The tortured Death Eater lay upon flat ground, gasping, get up. Harry, said Voldemort softly, stand up. You ask for forgiveness. I do not forgive. I do not forget. 13 long years, I want 13 years repayment before I forgive you. Wormtail here has paid some of his debt already. Have you not, Wormtail? He looked down at Wormtail, who continued to sob. You returned to me, not out loyalty, but out of fear of your old friends. You deserve this pain, Wormtail. You know that, don't you? Yes, master, moaned Wormtail. Please, master, please. Yet you helped return me to my body, said Voldemort coldly, watching Wormtail sob on the ground. Faultless and traitorous as you are, you helped me. And Lord Voldemort reward his helper. Voldemort raised his wand again and whirled it through the air. A streak of what looked like molten silver hung shining in the wand's wake, momentarily shapeless in the water, and then formed itself into a gleaming replica of a human hand, bright and moonlight, which soared downward and fixed himself upon Wormtail, bleeding wrist. Wormtail sobbing stopped abruptly, his breathing harsh and ragged. He raised his head and stared his disbelief at the silver hand, now attached seamless to his arm as though he were wearing a dazzling glow. He flexed and shining finger, then trembling pick up a small twig on the ground and crushed it into powder. My lord, he whispered, Master, it is beautiful. Thank you, thank you. He scrambled forward on his knees and kissed the hem of Voldemort's robe. May your loyalty never waver again, Wormtail said warm to Voldemort. No, my lord, never, my lord. Wormtail stood up and took his place in the circle, staring at his powerful new hand, his face still shining with tears. Voldemort now approached the man on Wormtail's right. Lucius, my slippery friend, he whispered, halting before him. I told you that you have not renounced the old ways, though to the world you present a respectable face. You are still ready to take the lead in the sport of Muggle torture, I believe. Yet you never tried to find me, Lucius. Your exploits at World Cup were fun, I dare say, but might not your energies have been better directly toward finding and aiding your master? My lord, I was constantly on alert, came Lucius Malfoy's voice swiftly from beneath the hood. Had there been any sign from you, any whisper of your weird doubts, I would have been at your side immediately. Nothing could have prevented me. Yet you ran from my mark when a faithful Death Eater sent it into the sky last summer, said Voldemort lazily, and Mr. Malfoy stopped talking abruptly. Yes, I know all about that, Lucius. You have disappointed me. I expect more faithful service in the future. Of course, my lord, of course. You are merciful, thank you. Voldemort moved on and stopped staring at the space large enough for two people that separated Malfoy and next man. The Lestranges should stand here, said Voldemort quietly, but they are entombed in Azkaban. They are faithful. They went to Azkaban rather than renounce me. When Azkaban is broke open, the Lestrange will be honored beyond their dreams. The Dementors will join us. They are our natural allies. We will recall the vanishing giant. I shall have all my devout servants return to me and an army of creatures whom all fear. He walked on. Some of the Death Eater he passed in silence, but he paused before other and spoke to them. McNair, destroying disastrous beast for the Ministry of Magic now. Wormtail tell me you shall have better victims than that soon. McNair, Lord Voldemort will provide. Thank you, Master, thank you, murmured McNair. And here, Voldemort moved on to the two largest hooded figure. We have Crab. You will do better this time. Will you not, Grab? And you, Goyle? They bowed clumsily, muttering dully, Yes, master, we will, master. The same goes for you, not said Voldemort quietly as he walked past a stood figure in Mr. Goyle shadow. My lord, I prostrate myself before you. I am your most faithful. That will do, said Voldemort. He had raised the largest gap of all, and he stood surveying it with his blank red eyes as though he could see people standing there. And there were we have 6 missing Death Eaters, 3 dead in my service, one too cowardly to return. He will pay, one who I believe has left me forever. He will be killed, of course, and one who remained my most faithful servant and who has already returned my services. The Death Eaters stared, and Harry saw their eyes dart sideways at one another through their mask. He is at Hogwarts, that faithful servant, and it was through his efforts that our young friend arrived here tonight. Yes, said Voldemort, a grin curling his lipless mouth as the eyes of the circle flashed in Harry's direction. Harry Potter has kindly joined us for the rebirthing party. One might go so far as to call him my guest of honor. There was a silence. Then the Death Eater to the right of Wormtail stepped forward, and Lucius Malfoy's voice spoke from under the mask. Master, we crave to know, we beg you to tell us how you have achieved this miracle, how you manage a return to us. What a story it is, Lucius, said Voldemort, and it began and ended with my young friend here. We walked lazily over to the stand next to Harry so that the eyes of the whole circle were upon the two of them. The snakes continued to circle. You know, of course, that they have called the boy my downfall, Voldemort said softly, his red eyes upon Harry, whose scar began to burn so fiercely that the mouse screamed in agony. You all know that one night I lost my power and my body. I tried to kill him. His mother died in the attempting to save him and unwittingly provided him with the protection. I admit I had not foreseen. I could not touch the boy. Voldemort raised one of his long white finger and put it very close to Harry's cheek. His mother left upon him the trace of her sacrifice. This is old magic. I should have remembered it. I was foolish to overlook it, but no matter, I can touch him now. Harry felt the cold tip of the long finger touch him, and thought his head was burst with the pain. Voldemort laughed softly in his ear, then looked the finger away and continued addressing the Death Eaters. I miscalculated my friends and I admit it. My curse was deflected by the women's foolish sacrifice and the rebound upon myself. Ah, pain beyond pain, my friends. Nothing could have prepared me for it. I was ripped for my body. I was less than spirit, less than a menace ghost, but I still was alive. But I was even, I do not know. I would have gone further than anybody along the path that led to immortality. You know my goal, to conquer death. And now I was tested, and it appeared that one or more my experiments has worked. For I had not been killed through the curse should have done it. Nevertheless, I was powerless as the weakest creature alive, and without the means to help myself. For I had no body, and every spirit that might have helped me required the use of a wand. I remember only forcing myself sleepless, endless, second by second to exist. I settled in a faraway place in forest and I waited. Surely one of my faithful Death Eater would try and find me. One of them would come and perform the magic could not to restore me to my body. But I waited in vain. The shiver ran once more around the circle of listening Death Eaters. Voldemort let the silence spiral horrible before continue. Only the power remained to me. I could possess the body of other, but I dare not go where other humans were plentiful. For I knew that the horrors were still abroad and searching for me. I sometimes inhabited animals, snake of course being my preference, but I was little better off inside them than as a pure spirit, for their bodies were ill adapted to perform magic, and my possession of them shortened their lives. None of them lasted long then. 4 years ago, the main for my return seemed assured. A wizard, young, foolish, and gullible, wandered across my path in the forest I had made my home. Oh, he seemed the very chance I had been dreaming for. He was a teacher at Dumbledore's school. He was easy to bend on my will. He brought me back to the country, and after a while, I took possession of his body to supervise him closely as he carried out my orders, but my plan failed. I did not manage to steal the sorcerer's stone. I was not to be assured immortal life. I was taught once again by Harry Potter. Silence once more. Nothing was stirring, not even the leaves on the oak tree. The Death Eater were quite motionless, the glittering eyes in their mask fixed upon Voldemort and upon Harry. The servant died when I felt his body, and I was left as weak as I had been. Voldemort continued. I returned to my hiding place far away, and I will not pretend to you that I didn't then fear that I might never regain my powers. Yes, that was perhaps my darkest hour. I could not hope that I could be sent another wizard to possess, and I had given up my hopes, and now that any of my Death Eaters cared that had before to me. One or two of the masked wizards in the circle moved uncomfortably, but Voldemort took no notice. And then, not even a year ago, when I had almost abandoned hope, it happened at last. A servant returned to me, Wormtail here, who had faked his own death to escape justice, was driven out of hiding by those he had once counted friends, and decided to return to his master. He sought me in the country where it had long been removed. I was hiding, helped, of course, by the rat he met along the way. Wormtail has a curious affinity with rats. Do you not, Wormtail? His fleety little friend told him there was a place deep in a Albanian forest that they avoided, where small animals like themselves had met their death by the dark shadow and possessed them. But his journey back to me was not smooth, Wormtail, for hungry one night on the edge of the very forest where he had hoped to find me, he foolishly stopped at inn for some food, and who should he meet there but one Bertha Jorkins, a witch from the Ministry of Magic. Now see the way that fate favors Lord Voldemort. This might have been the end of Wormtail and of my last hope for regeneration, but Wormtail displayed a presence of mind I would never have expected from him. Convinced Bertha Jorkins to accompany him on a night-time stroll, he overpowered her, he brought her to me, and Bertha Jorkins, who might have ruined all, proved instead to be a gift beyond my wildest dream. For with a little persuasion she became a veritable mine of information. She told me that the Triwizard tournament will be played at Hogwarts this year. She told me that they knew of the faithful Death Eater who would be only too willing to help me if I could only contact him. She told me many things, but the mean I used to break the memory charm upon her were powerful, and when I had exacted all useful information from her, her mind and body were both damaged beyond repair. She had now served her purpose. I could not possess her. I disposed of her. Voldemort smiled his terrible smile, his red eyes blank and pitiful. Wormtail's body, of course, was ill adapted for possession, as all assumed him dead and would attract for more much attention if noticed. However, he was the able-bodied servant I needed, and poor wizard though he is, Wormtail was able to follow the instruction I gave him, which would return to me a rudimentary weak body of my own. A body I would be able to inhabit it while awaited the essential ingredient for true rebirth, a spell or two of my own invitation. A little help from my dear Nagini. Voldemort's red eyes fell upon the continuously circling snake, a portion concocted from unicorn blood and the snake woman Nagini provided. I was soon returned to an uttermost human form and strong enough to travel. There was no hope of stealing the Sorcerer's Stone anymore, for I knew that Dumbledore would have seen to it that it was destroyed. But I was willing to embarrass mortal life again before chasing immortality. I said my sign lower. I would settle for my old body back again and my old strength. I knew that virtue this it is an old piece of dark magic, the potion that reviewed me tonight. I would need three powerful ingredients. Well, one of them was already at hand. Was it not Wormtail, flesh given by servant? My father's bone naturally meant that we would have to come here where he was buried, but the blood of Foy Wormtail would have had me used by any wizard. Would you not, Wormtail, any wizard who had hated me, as so many of them still do? But I knew the one I must use if I was to rise again more powerful than I had been when I had fallen. I wanted Harry Potter's blood. I wanted the blood of one who had stripped me of power 13 years ago. For the lingering protection his mother once gave him would then reside in my veins too. But how to get at Harry Potter? For he has been better protected than I think even he knows, protected in ways devised by Dumbledore long ago. When it failed to him to arrange the boy's future, Dumbledore invoked an ancient magic to ensure the boy's protection as long as he is in his relation's care. Not even I can touch him there. Then, of course, there was a Quidditch World Cup. I thought his protection might be weaker there, away from his relations and Dumbledore. I was not yet strong enough to attempt kidnap in midst of the horde of my mystery wizards. And then the boy would return to Hogwarts, where he is under the crook nose of that muggle living fool from morning until night. So, how could I take him? Why, by using Bertha Jorkins' information, of course. Use my one faithful Death Eater station at Hogwarts to ensure that the boy's name was entered into Goblet of Fire. Use my Death Eater to ensure that the boy won the tournament, that he touched the Triwizard Cup first, the cup which my Death Eater had turned into the portkey, which would bring him here beyond the reach of Dumbledore's help and protection and into my waiting arms. And here he is, the boy you all believe and been my downfall. Voldemort moved slowly forward and turned face to Harry. He raised his wand. Crucio. It was pain beyond anything Harry had ever experienced. His veins bones were on fire, his head was surely splitting along his scar. His eyes were rolling madly in his head. He wanted to end, to black out, to die, and then it was gone. He was hanging limply in the ropes binding him to the headstone of Voldemort's father. Looking up into those bright red eyes through a kind of mist, the night was ringing with the sound of Death Eater's laughter. You see, I think how foolish it was to suppose that this boy could ever have been stronger than me, said Voldemort. But I want there to be no mistake in anybody's mind. Harry Potter escaped me by a luck chance, and I am now going to prove my power by killing him. Here and now, in front of you all, when there is no Dumbledore to help him, and no brother to die for him. I will give him his chance, he will be allowed to fight, and you will be left in no doubt which of us is the stronger. Just a little longer, Nagini, he whispered, and the snake glided away through the grass to where the Death Eater stood watching. Now you be him, Wormtail, and give him back his wand. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. Till then, see you. Bye.